How about the Yainer Diaz conundrum the Houston Astros kind of find themselves in? Yainer Diaz is to Dana Brown and Dusty Baker what Chas McCormick was to James Click and Dusty Baker. Like, there's always that one player that GM and manager don't quite see eye to eye on. Dana Brown thinks Yainer Diaz is the future of the Astros at the catcher position, thinks he should be getting 300 plate appearances this year, and Dusty Baker's like, here you go, hold my beer. He's going to play only when Hunter Brown is on the mound. He's not going to catch anybody else. He's not going to DH. Like, today, David Hensley's in the lineup for their 3:05 wink-wink start to the series finale against San Francisco. David Hensley is getting the start at DH. David Hensley has 56 at-bats this season. Yainer Diaz has 31. Why does David Hensley have 56 at-bats and Yainer Diaz has 31? Explain that to me like I'm 5.
There's just no way other than Dusty's going to Dusty and Pawpaw's gut feelings and his personal feelings a lot of times get in the way of logical feelings in terms of who should be in that lineup. There's just no way that should happen. And what you saw last night was a very valid reason to go back to the discussion we had yesterday when you brought up the point that now that these pitchers are out that have a familiarity with the machete, might as well get more starts for Diaz, because after last night, if you need any more convincing, then you need your head examined. Because if you saw how quickly he threw runners out, if you saw the fact that he doesn't look overmatched at the plate and he looks like a confident player, you saw a guy that, other than stumbling and having a little base running gaff that didn't cost them, thankfully, this is a dude that should be in the lineup more often, especially when your number one seems like he's more like a number 3 that's just milking a check until he decides what he's going to do with for this next portion of his career.
I know that Maldonado's not in the lineup for his offense. I know that he's not starting 80% of the games because of what he can bring you with his bat. But Yainer Diaz, who I don't think has been anywhere near his potential offensively because he's not playing every day, because he's playing once every 5th day, can't even sniff the lineup in a DH spot when David Hensley has more at-bats than him. Yainer Diaz, 660 OPS as a catcher is pretty decent, especially for a guy who can't find his form and can't find his rhythm. Like, I like what he brings to the table from an offensive point of view. The catcher position is now like a live option. Like, the catcher position when he's in the lineup can produce, can do some things, doubled in the gap yesterday in right center. I think that, obviously his future's ahead of him, but he gives you live at-bats. He gives you live potential damage in the lineup. And the biggest, thing that we heard with Yainer Diaz coming into the majors was that there's questions about what he could be defensively. You mentioned he's got a cannon. Yep. He threw it at 86 miles per hour yesterday, which I think was the highest registered velo this year by a catcher in Major League Baseball, and he did it twice. His pop time, I think the highest pop time was like top 5 that we've seen in Major League Baseball this season. Like, He has a great pop time. He's got a great arm. The Astros would tell you that's not all we need from defense. We need a guy who can receive. We need a guy who can frame pitches. We need a guy that can see a pitcher through a start, through 9 innings, through an inning, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. I don't see Yainer Diaz being that bad of a receiver, though. Like, I understand the questions, and I've been watching Yainer Diaz closely this year because I don't watch minor league baseball. I don't know how Yainer Diaz is as a receiver. I don't think he's a bad receiver at all.
I don't think Hunter Brown will tell you he's a bad receiver either. I mean, Hunter Brown has a lot of confidence in him.
I heard some people say, well, maybe if you had Martin Maldonado back there yesterday, he would have gotten you some of these strikes that you got called at balls. I don't agree with that at all.
I think that was just an umpire that was hell-bent on his strike
small zone. Yeah.
But I think the one thing that we're actually, with all the things that you covered, the one thing that we're still not addressing here is Martin Maldonado isn't Martin Maldonado the last couple of years behind the plate either when it comes to defense.
He led the league in pass balls last year.
He's been half-assing it behind the plate. They were talking about it even on ESPN about the pros and cons and what a catcher would tell you about doing the one knee thing, which he's done more often.
I think it's an organizational thing, though.
But I'm just telling you, overall, you and I have had the discussions even off the air about the fact that it looks like he's not putting a whole lot of effort back there. Some of the pass balls have already cost them. It's not a good look, and it's not helping this team, which needs help right now to kind of right the ship and get everything going in the right direction to keep the momentum going. He looks like there's a whole lot of I don't care in a lot of games this year, and that's worrisome because he should appreciate how much everybody has had his back and had confidence in him and basically been behind him to be the guy. Right now, he looks like this isn't October. This isn't playoffs. This isn't where I got to put my best foot forward, so I'll just kick back and, do what I do and get credit for it, even though I can't hit my weight.
Yeah, I'm curious the one knee thing. Like, I don't recall Yainer doing it a ton yesterday. Maybe they do it when there's not people on base. I need to watch that a little closer to see if it's more of an organization thing or a Maldi
It's come
thing.
up, and it was a thing that ESPN on Sunday Night Baseball has brought up as well.
But it is a growing trend in baseball, period. Like, you see more catchers on one knee than ever before. Like, I watch hundreds of baseball games a year, and you see it at the college level. You see it all over. Like, it is a growing trend.
Well, plus, and a lot of guys are trying to save their knees, and there's,
I don't think it's that. I think it's more about your ability to receive. Like, they feel like you have a better chance of getting strikes and framing because you're down on a knee in a more like natural, comfortable position.
I'd be interested in hearing some of the catchers talk about that, because remember,
I've talked to them. I've talked to catchers about this. I've asked them, why are you down to a knee? And that's what they tell me.
Okay. Who's the guy that used to do the splits?
Benito Santiago. That guy was freaking unbelievable.
God, he could throw from his butt cheeks.
Loved watching Benito Santiago catch.
He just really could. And that became a trend for a while. You got to realize real quickly, physically, only a couple guys can actually do that and do it well. He could do it well.
Benito Santiago was a freak.
Yeah,
he's like the Dennis Rodman of defensive catching. Like, it's just this one-off, unbelievable freak, and there's never going to be anything else like him.
I think I'm going to give you guys a positive spin zone, okay, with all the injuries that are happening in the rotation.
I feel like you're going to go where I went yesterday.
Maybe I missed this. That with the minor leaguers coming up and Diaz having experience catching them, he's going to start playing a lot more.
Yeah, I mentioned that to Blankers yesterday.
They're going to force. Like, they're going to have to put him in the lineup because now you have no excuse. Like, if your excuse is he's not ready to catch Fromber and Urquidy and Garcia.
Fine.
Well, Urquidy and Garcia are gone now.
Yeah, he can catch Bielak. He can catch JP France.
Yeah.
Let him catch those guys. At least one.
He's more familiar with them than Maldi is. Like, this is kind of like almost a way to force him into the lineup of him catching the minor league guys and then slowly taking over Maldonado. But, like, long term, if you want him to be the catcher of the future, shouldn't he catch Framber Valdez a little bit before next season?
A little bit.
Like,
I can live with what you just said, though. Like, okay, Maldi, you can have Framber, you can have Javier. That's
but then
cool.
He just doesn't pitch in the play. He doesn't catch in the playoffs.
That's cool, but like, okay, you got Hunter Brown already. Find him another starter. Let it be Brandon Bielak. Let it be Brandon Bielak. That way he can play more often. And I just don't see the whole like, he's not a good defensive catcher. Because the arm stuff, he's got that. He's got the pop time. People are going to say that he's not a great receiver. I don't see that. I think he is a solid receiver. Maldi led the league in pass balls. So if like you're willing to live with a guy who led the league in pass balls last year, what do you see in Yainer that you don't like? I don't see it. And Hunter Brown's been really good too, so it's telling you that Yainer can call a pretty good game. But like my biggest content, and I'm not going to complain about Dusty Baker's lineups in the regular season because I said I wasn't going to be that guy. I will not do it. Dusty knows everything. Dusty knows everything. In Dusty, I trust. Blah, 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 blah. I will not complain about regular season lineups. But why is David Hensley getting at bats and Yainer Diaz is not? Why are you even carrying a third catcher? Like the whole point of carrying a third catcher is so you can pinch it for Maldonado late in games. That's not happening. The other reason that you keep a third catcher is so you can DH Yainer Diaz on days that you're supposed to be DHing him instead of David Hensley, and that is not happening.
And it's the biggest strength that the guy brings to the table that everybody's been raving about through the minor leagues is his ability to hit the ball. We know that it hasn't been their belief in his catching overall because last year he stuck around for the entire majority of the playoffs and late season to catch guys in the bullpen even so he could get more familiar with the pitching staff. But we know he's a catcher. And so we were a little bit perplexed by the third catcher and the fact that it looked like he was going to be that guy, but thought, oh, you know what? He'll get plenty of at-bats. We're told he was going to get plenty of at-bats by both the GM and I think Dusty said it too. But now we're sitting there looking at him, and especially, again, it's magnified by what you saw last night by a guy that deserves to be out there more. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand what the obsession is with David Hensley.
Give me some more Yainer. At the expense of Hensley, at the expense of Maldi, I don't care.